begin on new demands for Rachel Maddow to be out. New demands for Rachel Maddow to be out at none other than one MSNBC. New calls for Rachel Maddow to be out at MSNBC as we speak, ladies and gentlemen, and it's in part because of, well, a variety of things, but you have only to look at some of her comments made the other night during the president's joint address, in which she, for whatever reason, thought it was a good idea to go after this kid, a 13-year-old kid named DJ Daniels, who is a brain cancer survivor. You know, he's been dealing with brain cancer since he was about 6 years old. Somehow she thought this was okay to go after him. And I'll tell you, this is really showcasing, I think, perhaps what is just so desperately wrong with politics. We got a couple new developments on this front. One, the father of DJ is calling her out, saying just unacceptable. And then you have the president of the United States calling her out, saying this is absolutely unacceptable. I think we can agree with him. Not sure what's going on with the camera. The hazard of being on the road, perhaps. Again, let's go over and take a look here at what Rachel Maddow actually said.
For the record, and this is disgusting, the president made a spectacle out of praising a young man who's thus far survived pediatric cancer, as if the president had something to do with that. This was in the midst of him praising Doge. The Doge cuts, among other things, have cut off funding for ongoing research into pediatric cancer.
Yeah, why does he want to go to that nothing shot? You got me. Anyway, I'm here. Rachel Maddow is clearly a problem, and increasingly now a liability, if you would, for one MSNBC. They're turning into this spin co, right? The spin co that's supposed to be the new company at MSNBC. They're going to take all the cable assets and like roll them up and spin them off and separate them from Comcast, because Comcast, as a cable company, one, has learned that, you know, the cable thing's not where it's at. They need to diversify away from that because it's a drag on their earnings stream. And then you get the political liability, frankly, and it's a ton of it, associated with people like Joy Reid, who they got rid of. Told you they would. Like Rachel Maddow, who they're looking at getting rid of, and like Nicole Wallace, who I do believe they'll get rid of. In other words, Nicole doesn't really offer them a lot. She doesn't have the star power, for example, that one Rachel Maddow would. So she's not needed. And I don't think there's any excuse for anybody saying something such as what she said. I'm going to get to that, but first, did you see here just exactly what this little boy did? I mean, it was just a beautiful moment with the head of Secret Service, Sean Curran, making him an honorary officer. It was just like a super duper 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 special moment. And so heartwarming, and yet these anchors had to attack. So the father understandably attacked back and said, you know what? My son didn't deserve this. Although he said it quite more explicitly. Quote, she needs to shut her mouth if she has nothing nice to say. Theodis Daniel told the Post of the MSNBC anchor Rachel Maddow, who declared Trump disgusting for calling out his son DJ and his cancer battle. He goes on to say, this lady didn't even serve time in the military. I was on the USS Kitty Hawk. She does not need to put her bad energy on us. You better believe it. Like, who the heck needs that? It's just unacceptable. And then, you know, if you thought that was bad, just check out little Nikki, Nicole Wallace.
But I think this was a lesson in finding one thing that you let yourself feel. And I let myself feel joy about DJ. And I hope he's alive for another, 95 years, right? And I hope he lives.
Okay, so far so good, right? And then it takes this wild turn.
And the life he wants to live. He wants to be a cop. He knows what he wants to do. And maybe when you have childhood cancer, that crystallizes for you. And I hope he has a long life as a law enforcement officer. But I hope he never has to defend the United States Capitol against Donald Trump's supporters. And if he does, I hope he isn't one of the 6 who loses his life to suicide. And I hope he isn't one who has to testify against the people who carried out acts of seditious conspiracy and then live to see Donald Trump pardon those people.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, my gosh, my gosh, my gosh. Who does that? You know, I did a lot on this yesterday, so we don't need to belabor the point. The new development here is that executives are now considering maybe some of these members of their talent community, their host community, are not worth having, given how toxic they have become. But I did say yesterday, I encourage you to go back and look at that show, that this woman clearly lacks empathy. And that is perhaps the entire problem with the Democrat Party right now. They have no empathy. They have no empathy for understanding what everyday Americans are about. They're up there in their ivory towers or in their networks, making a lot of money without any kind of sense of what the real world is. And I know Donald Trump has led a charmed life in the sense that he's had lots of money throughout most of his life. He's built something and he's worked hard for it. But I would also say this, you know, he's never forgotten where he's come from. He never forgets where Americans come from. And that's the difference. And so when he's out there taking a stand on issues and they're taking the exact opposite, it's in part because they have no empathy. And now the president is calling on one Rachel Maddow and one Nicole Wallace, who you probably never even heard of until I told you this, to be fired.
It was very embarrassing for the Democrats what happened the other night. And that's not said for any other reason other than it's obvious, it's fact. Even CNN fake news said that. They came out and they said it. And worse than CNN is MSNBC, which is the worst. And the good news is very few people watch them anymore. They have lost such credibility. And frankly, what Nicole Wallace said, I've never been a fan of hers. And she's not very talented. But I'll tell you, what she said the other day about that young man is disgraceful. She should be forced to resign. And Rachel Maddow should be forced to resign. Nobody watches her anyway. I don't know if it's not possible they pay her as much money as I hear. But certainly she's lost all credibility, both of them. But what they said the other day, they should be forced to resign about that young person who is suffering greatly. Thank you, Nick.
He's right. You know, it's just like we've reached the point of no return. Did you see him in the State of the Union the other night when he got up there and he said, "It doesn't matter what I do. I can cure cancer. I can fix everything." And they're going to still sit there and refuse to clap. They're going to sit there, refuse to clap for a 13-year-old kid. And then you're going to have their little, cronies at MSNBC, the ammunition, come out to strike against a 13-year-old kid. I mean, I'm sorry, we're reaching the point of no return. This is just disgusting, and she should be fired. So this is something I'm hearing through back channels that executives, Brian Roberts, for example, he thought the solution was you just spin it off. Brian Roberts is the CEO of Comcast. And he thought, okay, well, this is better for shareholders. They have some tax value in doing this. And of course, that business itself is no longer a business worth having. We know everything's changed, right? Everybody's over here. We're streaming, baby. We're streaming. Make sure you subscribe, like, share, make a comment, all that stuff, because every bit helps. I know I'm on early today. I'm actually traveling, and I wanted to make sure I got on with you ahead of a trip I'm about to undertake. You know, I'm here every day, no matter what, no matter where I am in the world. You got me. And I'm committed to this. But what I would say is make sure you hit the bell so you know exactly when I'm on. It is high time. It is high time, ladies and gentlemen, that we start to have some semblance of decency again. And I don't think that's what you're seeing from that side. And so Brian Roberts, the CEO, I'm hearing, is just saying, okay, enough is enough, right? Like he got to that point with Joy Reid. And they fired her. They have a new head of MSNBC, Rebecca something. I'm sure she's as left as the rest of them. But if you're running a business, this is what we would just say is not good for business. And if it's not good for business, it's not going to be good for shareholders. And when they spin this thing off, who the heck wants to buy a share of this spinco with MSNBC? And Rachel Maddow out there saying nonsense while simultaneously losing your money. Because that's not a business that can succeed in a new media world. All right? So that's the good news, at least. The bad news is she's still on the air today. But I don't think for long.